All right, let's dive into one of the most incredible fields in all of medicine, pediatric cardiology. We're going to take a look at what happens when the absolute smallest hearts are up against the very biggest challenges and explore the amazing science that helps mend them.
It's a terrifying question, right? One that no parent ever wants to even think about. But today, we're going to explore exactly that. What happens when a child's heart struggles to keep up, and how these amazing medical teams step in to make a difference.
So, to really get our heads around heart problems in kids, you have to know that they almost always start down one of two main paths.
On one side of the coin, you've got congenital heart disease. This means the child is literally born with a structural problem in their heart, and this is, by far, the most common reason for heart issues in babies. On the other side, you have acquired heart disease, which is something that develops later on, maybe after an infection. So the very first question doctors have to answer is, was this there from the beginning, or did it happen over time?
But, no matter which path it takes, the end result can often be the same. The heart muscle just gets overworked, tired, and weak. And that leads us to a really important condition called congestive heart failure.
Now, it's super important to get this. CHF isn't a disease itself. It's the result of some other underlying problem. Think of the heart as a pump. When that pump starts to struggle, it can't push blood forward the way it's supposed to. So what happens? You get a traffic jam, a backup of blood and fluid that ends up where it shouldn't be.
And that backup could happen in a couple of different places. If it's the left side of the heart that's failing, fluid backs up right into the lungs. That makes it really hard to breathe. But if the right side fails, that backup happens throughout the rest of the body, causing things like swelling in the legs or belly. It's just like a plumbing issue, Where the clog is determines where the water spills.
So, as a parent, what might you actually notice? Well, the signs can be surprisingly subtle. A baby might just get super breathless and exhausted from feeding. That's it. Or maybe they're just not gaining weight like they should. You might notice their little heart is beating way too fast, or see a bit of puffiness and swelling. All of these are little signals that the heart is working way too hard.
Okay, so now we understand the signs of a struggling heart. Let's dig into the most common cause in children, which is those congenital heart defects. And these aren't just a random collection of problems. Doctors have a really smart, logical system for classifying them.
This is where it gets really clever. You can take all of these complex defects and basically boil them down to one single question. Where is the blood going? Is way too much blood flooding the lungs? Or is not enough blood getting to the lungs? Is there a blockage somewhere stopping blood from getting out? Or is the oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood all getting mixed up? This system is the absolute key to figuring out how to treat the problem.
So let's take that first category, too much blood going to the lungs. A classic example is something called a ventricular septal defect, or VSD. All this is a hole in the wall between the heart's two main pumping chambers. And because of that little leak, a bunch of extra blood gets pushed into the lungs, which you can imagine totally overworks both the heart and the lungs.
Okay, so that was a fairly simple leak. Now let's switch gears and tackle a much more complex condition, one that fits into that decreased blood flow category. It's called Tetralogy of Fallot.
The name sounds pretty intimidating, I know, but tetralogy literally just means a group of four. So what we're talking about is a combination of four different structural problems, all happening at the exact same time in the same tiny heart.
So what are these four problems? Well, you can think of it like a domino effect. It all starts with a blockage or narrowing on the path to the lungs. Because of that blockage, blood takes the path of least resistance through the second problem, that hole between the ventricles. The third defect is that the aorta, the body's main artery, is kind of in the wrong spot, sitting right over this hole. And finally, because the right side of the heart is working so hard to push against that blockage, its muscle wall gets super thick.
Since not enough blood is getting to the lungs to pick up fresh oxygen, a key sign of TOF is cyanosis. That's a bluish tint to the skin. But the most dramatic and scary sign is something called a TET spell. This is a sudden episode, usually brought on by crying or feeding, where the child's skin, lips, and nails turn a deep, scary blue because their oxygen levels have just plummeted.
So what can you do during one of these TET spells? Well, the most powerful thing you can do right away is to put the baby in a knee-chest position, basically tucking their knees up tightly to their chest. It's incredible, but this simple move actually changes the pressures in the heart and increases blood flow to the lungs, helping to stop the spell. And of course, staying calm and comforting the child is absolutely crucial.
All right, we've talked about some pretty serious problems, so let's shift gears and talk about the solutions.
How do medical teams actually figure these complex issues out and care for these tiny hearts?
Diagnosing these things is like being a detective solving a puzzle. It takes everything from a basic physical exam to really advanced imaging. A huge piece of that puzzle is the echocardiogram, which is an ultrasound of the heart. This thing is a total game changer because it gives doctors a real-time moving picture of the heart's structure and how it's working, letting them see these defects with their own eyes.
Medication plays a massive role here, not to cure the defect, but to manage the symptoms and support the heart. It's a real team effort. You've got digoxin, which helps the heart pump stronger. Then you have diuretics, or water pills, to get rid of all that extra fluid. And finally, ACE inhibitors, which relax the blood vessels and just make the heart's job a whole lot easier.
But beyond all the surgeries and medications, the day-to-day management really comes down to amazing nursing care. It's this constant, careful effort to reduce the heart's workload by doing things like adjusting the child's position, giving them oxygen, and keeping a close eye on their fluids. But maybe the most important job of all is supporting the family, educating them and empowering them so they can become confident caregivers when they finally get to go home.
When you step back and look at it, the progress in this field has been nothing short of miraculous. From diagnostic tools that can spot the tiniest flaw to surgeries that can literally rebuild a heart, it's just this powerful mix of science and pure compassion. And it really leaves you with a hopeful question. As this technology just keeps getting better and better, what will the future of heart care look like for the next generation of these tiny hearts?